thought they did a really good job today. Now, everybody's at a different level, but collectively as a team, we couldn't talk in these terms last year. We were talking about how to practice. We were talking about, not going on one knee during practice, taking your helmet off, throwing your helmet. We were talking much more about emotional control. Guys trying to figure out, where they were and what their place was. So you can imagine from my perspective and the coaches, it's great when you can go out into a drill and just talk about competing and not about whether you won or lost the drill, but whether you used really good technique as a DB at the top of the route. And because you used really good technique and your attention to detail there is, you're going to pick that off when we play XYZ. So that was essentially what today was about, what tomorrow will be about. And then we start to get into, okay, all right, where are the matchups? Where do we need to develop somebody as a key backup? Or where do we need to develop a little bit more depth? Maybe where do we need to move a guy? But the next few days is really about that kind of mindset of what spring practice is about and what the objective is in spring practice. You could ask me about who looked good and, who did what, and I'll give you the best answers I can. But you can understand the mindset that we all have going into this is, how do we get our guys really understanding total preparation and how to prepare physically, how to prepare technically, tactically, and mentally in the spring. And then how can they have a better attention to detail? How can they be better focused? How can they have the right attitude? How can they be smart? And certainly, how can they have a great attitude every day? So I'll shut up and open it up to questions.
Coach, just on the spring game format, I hear more and more coaches say, as vanilla as that game is, they don't want to put footage out for other teams to look at. How are you dealing with, they want this to be a TV event also, right? So how do you deal with the format this year?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to throw exotics in there and do those kinds of things. But you still, if you can play the game, you want to do what I just said, right? You want to continue that competition. You still want to be able to put those kids in a position where, they can work on all of those things. Last year was a little bit different. As you know, I try to treat it as a game where we did pregame meal and we did the walk and we did all those things because they had never been involved, nor had I. So I wanted to take that anxiety out of the first game for us. So as we go through the spring, we'll have to evaluate what the numbers look like. So you could have a short spring game, but you could have some 7-on-7. You could have some individual drills. You could have some of the things where the fans could still be involved in it, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Noticed that the running back room was a little bit thin out there. Could you update us on what's going on with John and Josh and Armani?
Yeah, they're working through the injuries that they suffered. They're out there at practice. They've been great in terms of their rehab, and certainly Josh is the closest in terms of being able to come back and do some more drill work in the spring. Armani will not be back until camp, certainly Trey Hawley's going to get a lot of work, and he did today. Matter of fact, he grabbed me in the hallway, and and typically as a freshman, you can imagine there were some errors, and he was looking for Coach Wilson, and wanted to apologize. I was like, just keep showing up, just show up every day. You're going to be fine. And he's got a great motor. He's got a great attitude. He's got all of the things that you want. It's just the first day, and he's swimming.
Coach, going into year 2 for spring ball last year, your first year here, how do you as a head coach feel going into this spring with it being a little bit more quieter this off season?
Well, I think, we always put the the blinders on regardless of what's going on, and focus on what's important. And as I kind of alluded to in my opening remarks, what's important is really important for this football team in year two, as we go back into the development of how do we become more consistent. It's everything that I just talked about. So as important of all the things that we had to do last year, this is equally as important. It's just what's more important this year is a little bit different than last year. So it's just a different chapter that we're moving through in the development of the football program. But I think we just kind of, have tunnel vision and know that this is what's really crucial and important to us now.
Yeah, Brian, the way the spring schedule's set up, 2 days practice and then a week off for spring break, is that particularly what you wanted? Is that what the calendar fell? Did you think about maybe starting a week later, or did it work out this way to where you can evaluate all next week on the 2 days you practice?
So it allows us to kick into longer hours with the team once you go into spring ball. You're able to elongate the hours and have more contact time. So it allowed us more contact time with the team. And then it allows you to, elongate the schedule because you don't have to count these days that we're at break. We also have the Easter break where we don't have to count days. So it just allows us the ability to spend more time in terms of meeting and contact hours with our football team. So that's kind of the tactic, if you will, in terms of trying to spread it out over a longer period of time.
Hey, Coach. With Walker Howard transferring, did that decision sort of surprise you? And with a guy like Garrett Nusmeyer now, how important is it to sort of maintain a guy who sort of knows your system and can lead this football team when Jaden departs after this year?
Yeah, look, you're ready for everything. You want to do a great job of retention, and sometimes it's out of your hands, And Garrett was out there today, even after he's had some corrective surgery. He was out there competing, throwing the football, he'll probably be another week or so before he's full go and everything. But I think he's excited, and I think Collins got a lot of work today. So we've got 3 quarterbacks that will get a lot of work in the spring. I think we're in a pretty good place.
Coach, can you talk about your 3 defined future SEC opponents and going to a 9-game schedule? One of the other coaches in the SEC seems to have a problem, and your thoughts on the draw you received.
Yeah, we play all 3 of those teams, so for me, it just didn't seem to be any different. I expected that it was probably going to be Ole Miss and Alabama, and whether it was going to be A&M or Texas or somebody else, it's not something that I really thought much about because I wanted to play SEC teams, that's why I came here. So I just think I come from it from a different perspective in that I respect all the opponents we play, and I think it's important that, we play certain teams. But if we could play all SEC schools, and that was the smart thing, I know it's not the smart thing to do, but I think 9 is great because it's going to prepare you and your football team, for what eventually will be in 2024, an expanded, playoff field, and I think that's a good thing.
Just to follow up real quick on John Emery, when do you expect to have him back?
John is focused strictly right now on his academics, and so he's got some marks that he has to hit from an academic standpoint before we talk about football with him. That was the deal with John in talking to his family, is that if his primary focus was academics and taking care of his degree, then we would have a conversation about football. And so right now his focus is 100% on that.
Coach up here. Sorry I was late.
You
Could
were? I
just-
didn't notice you.
Thank you. I'll pay the $10.
I'm trying to move away from that.
Your early enrollees, you talked about Ricky. What do you want for them, and how have you seen throughout the years early enrollees really benefit from that extra time? And then secondly, you're a little thin at a couple of positions.
Yes.
How will you manage that?
Okay, let's talk about Ricky. Certainly as a quarterback, you benefit greatly just coming in, learning the system. There's so much as a quarterback, as you can imagine, from just looking to the sideline and picking up the signals. It's like, it's foreign to many. Some of the signaling takes a while, and the preparation of that. So just getting that down in itself. Then I would say, being coached and hearing a different voice is equally as important as you transition into, a new system. Coach Sloan is a great coach, but it's a different voice. And then finally, trying to put it together in quite frankly a faster environment. Everything's quicker, everything's faster, quicker decisions. And so from a quarterback standpoint, mid-year enrollment covers everything from, the intellectual development to the physical development in the weight room, putting on the proper weight, to the mental development and dealing with the ups and downs of transitioning into college life as somebody that should still be in high school, right? And so that's really important. We're really thin on the offensive line, and so the charge will be after today really focusing on shoring up that group. Now we've got guys coming, right? We've got guys that are out, and and I'm not here to say that we've got an issue with a second group. We just have some young guys that are playing right now that it's really a first time out there. But we've got to shore that group up. When we shore that group up, we've got some talented players out there. That's a good question. I think that there's a fine line between the both, and we'll have to actually meet on how we navigate the second group, because we can't have guys not blocked, and not having a quality play. So we've got to figure that out. It's a good question.
A couple things. Are there any guys, you signed a lot of guys, transfers of different age and experience. Are there some guys who, if they do what they should be doing, are no doubt about it, guys that are going to help you all this year?
Yes.
And then, as you just mentioned, well, if you could name some of them, as you mentioned, a lot of your backup O-linemen who are older transferred out looking for playing time. Marlon didn't, Martinez. Can you just shed some light on maybe kind of what his mindset is right now going into another year at LSU?
Yeah, we want him to stay. But as you know, there's another transfer portal. So we can't worry about those things. We're going to develop the guys that are on our roster. We're going to give them the opportunities that we believe is right for our program. He's done a really good job. He's worked hard in the weight room. He's reshaping his body. He's doing the things necessary for him to compete. He's getting first team reps because Charles is out with an injury. So, but, we won't know until we finish spring ball what his status is. We hope he's here to stay. As it relates to players that are going to make an impact, I think it's pretty clear that some of the defensive players that we brought in, Ovie Agufu, Omar Spates, I think, Jefferson, to name a few, are going to be guys that are going to be impactful. I think the depth at the cornerback position, all of them are really talented players. Watching one-on-one today, it looked pretty good. There's some things that we'll continue to evaluate. It's day one, but I'm pretty confident that the transfers that we brought in will make an impact, and in particular on the defensive side of the ball. Aaron Anderson is coming back from surgery, so we haven't seen him yet. But we know about his story and how great of a high school player he was here in the state. if you can carry that onto the field here at LSU, we're penciling him in, obviously somewhere. So, yeah, look, you don't know until you get into camp and you really get into the nitty-gritty of it. But we feel like we've supported our football program with the right people because they have fit in so well over the past few months in our program itself. And that really is the most important thing.
Coach, late last year, do you feel like you got tired on the defensive line, and with the volume of defensive linemen you brought in from the transfer portal and whatnot, how comfortable do you feel about playing more guys, less reps, and in and out maybe this year a little bit more?
Yeah, Jacques, I think it was in its totality. I think it was corner. I think it was safety. I think it was defensive line. If you look at the SEC game, there was a lot of compressed formations where they were cracking down on our best players and, forcing some guys that were, less than 100% to make plays in the run game. And so, we had to address that, with depth at the cornerback position, depth at defensive tackle in particular, and certainly the safety position. So, it was certainly in the tail end of November, it was becoming pretty clear that needed to be addressed.
Hey, Brian, is there any element of, maybe year one with an offense, you're just kind of trying to keep things stable, get things kind of where it's, I don't know, efficient, and then maybe there's an evolution in year two where there's more you're trying to do, or was last year pretty much kind of what you expect?
When you talk about offensive philosophy, there's a line to be drawn about, how you look at each play, right? And, if you look at the NFL, right, I mean, there's so much focus and effort placed on the singular play in the NFL, right? There's the huddle, and then there's all kinds of motion, and then that play itself is just a full commitment to a singular play, and that's why they, run less plays than college. College sometimes it's like, run, as many plays as you can, and so my philosophy and our philosophy is we still want that play to have the quality elements of striking on a wide front where it can hit everywhere, and it forces defenses to defend that play, and you have compliments off of it. So I think we look at the singular play more than anything else and evaluate it as such. So they have to have compliments. There has to be a way to get the defense moving. You want the defense to be able to change their eyes with motion and make sure that they're forced to communicate. So I really think it's about the singular play philosophically that we're looking at more so than this comprehensive, let's get another play in. Thank you.